Hi there. This is Christy Hayes Devlin. I am the Executive Director of the Baby Carrier Industry Alliance, and I would like to talk to you about the updates to the United States sling standard that have been approved in August of 2022 by the Consumer Product Safety Commission. There are a few minor changes that we're not really going to cover here. They are tiny verbiage changes and some changes to the packaging requirements, but there's nothing you need to add or really be aware of. And if you'd like to learn more about that and you're a member, we've covered that on our blog. However, what do you need to know in order to implement the changes and to continue to be compliant with the standard? The key changes affect the product warning label. First of all, there's a new label format required. Your warning text, except for the word warning, must be left, justified, and use bullet points. If you've been purchasing your labels from the BCIA or using our template, you'll see that those labels have already been using that format. However, I know that some of our members have been using different kinds of formats, and that's okay, but the labels as of November 19th need to follow this format where the warning text is left justified and uses bullet points. And left justified means that you can't do the quote the justified font, or rather formatting, where the paragraph alignment is straight on both the left and the right, because that spreads out the text in a way that is less intuitive and easy to read. And the purpose of this formatting is to ensure that the warning labels are very easy for the consumer to absorb and consume. There's some new verbiage on these labels. In the first paragraph of the warning text, you're going to add the phrase, "these warnings." And that's all covered in Section 8 of F2907-22, which I'll tell you how to purchase. That's the updated version of the standard. It's the 2022 version. Previously, we were using the F2907-19 version. The box behind the word warning now has to be in safety orange. This is a big change. Safety orange is Pantone color 151C. And so instead of just having a contrasting box, for example, a white box with black text or a black box with white text, you now have to have behind the word warning an orange box with black text in addition to your safety symbol. So your to-do list for implementing these changes and your timeline. First of all, on or before November 19th, you need to have your new labels ready. So you'll need to either redesign your existing labels and have them printed, or you can purchase your label template from the BCIA. That is in the process of being tested by AM testing as we speak, to ensure that the label is compliant and that we are giving you something that is in line with the new regulation. Or you can purchase printed labels from the BCIA in larger or smaller quantities and watch your email for information about how to pre-order those labels so that you can get them as soon as they arrive. Again, as soon as we get our thumbs up and green light from AM testing, which should be very shortly in the next day or three, we're going to go ahead and have those printed, and we should have them ready to deliver to you, I hope, by November 1st of 2022. You'll have to use the new labels. All products made on or after November 19th have to use the new label format, the new warning labels. So until November 19th, you can continue to use existing labels, use up your existing inventory, your old stock. But after November 19th, you're going to want to switch to the existing, the new format, the orange background, the left justified, the bullet points, the new verbiage. And again, this is for F2907-22 carriers, sling type carriers. If your carrier is covered under the F2236-16 standard for soft carriers, then these changes do not yet apply to you, although they are coming in the future. You need to secure your label on all four sides and ensure they're really secure. This includes heat transfer labels, which obviously you're not going to sew, but they need to be attached to your carrier on all four sides. And then this is a question I'm getting a lot of. Product testing. Do you need to retest because of the changes to the standard? No, not exactly. On November 19th, it is your responsibility as a company to ensure that your labels are compliant. If you purchase your labels from us, we'll have a children's product certificate or a compliance certificate that will ensure that you have for your records a certificate of compliance that shows you are purchasing a compliant label and that we are guaranteeing that we have had those labels tested and that they meet the new standard. That is sufficient for your own needs to ensure that the standards are met. You don't need to retest your product on November 19th, not until your next scheduled test date. So if you are due for annual testing in June, for example, you can test your product in June. And when you test your product, they will be using the new F2907-22 standard, but by then you'll have already been compliant on all products that you've made on or after November 19th. Let's say that you are testing your products in October of 2022, prior to, or the beginning of November, prior to when the standard goes into effect. When they do that test, they can do the test utilizing the existing standard, which is F2907-19. And if you have the existing label format without the orange bar with the different verbiage, then your carrier will pass testing. However, even if you test at the beginning of November utilizing the existing labels, you still have to change your labels on November 19th, regardless of when you have completed that product testing. If you have questions about this or need support in making the transition, please feel free to set up a phone call or drop me an email and we can talk about it. How do you get the updated standard? This is a bit tricky because it was not available online immediately. But if you are an ASTM member, what is an ASTM member? ASTM is completely separate from the BCIA and is completely separate from the US government CPSC. ASTM is a nonprofit international standards writing organization. And the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, CPSC, usually or often adopts ASTM standards when they need a mandatory standard. They have in this case as well. There are two ways you can purchase the standards. One is to just go on their website and purchase it without becoming a member. The other is to become or be an ASTM member, which costs approximately $75. ASTM members can vote on certain things, participate in subcommittees and task forces and all of these things. And when you are an ASTM member, you can access the entire category of standards in the category for which you are a member. So for example, I am an ASTM member. My category is F15, and that covers, children consumer products. So I have access as an ASTM member for my $75 annual membership, approximately, to the F2907-22 standard, but also to all of the previous iterations of that standard. I can go back and compare it to what was coming before the F2907-21, -19, and so on and so forth. I can also access the F2236 standard or the swing standard, etc. So membership is not significantly more expensive than purchasing the standard and provides you access to the standards. You do need to log on and vote on ballots and keep your membership active, but it's a very low investment membership thing. If you are an ASTM member, here's where you're going to get your standard because it can be a little bit tricky to find it in your membership portal. So first, you're going to go to astm.org. And if you look at the little arrow on the top right here, this little yellow arrow, click the sign in button. Next, you are going to do the drop down from the top right corner. You can see where my name is. And when you drop down, you will see Compass as an option. And when you click on Compass, that will take you, follow the orange arrow, to this screen. There'll be 4 tabs on top, recently accessed, something else, favorites, and subscriptions. When you click on the subscriptions tab, you'll see this square box labeled number 2 that says ASTM. And when you click on the ASTM box, that will bring you to a new window. And within that window is a search box up top, My Subscription. You type in the standard that you are trying to search. It'll drop down, click on that, and then you will have the standard pulled up in front of you and ready to download. You'll be ready to go. If you wanted to look for a different standard, you would obviously type in a different standard. There are keywords you can use and so forth. If you are not an ASTM member, then here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to astm.org. There will be a search bar at the top right. you're going to search for F2907-22. You'll click on the link for the standard. It'll give you a purchase option. You will purchase it for $54. And again, you can become an ASTM member for $75 a year and get access to all the F15 standards, including the revisions, as long as your membership remains active. Here's the thing. F2907-22 references additional standards when it describes how to make these warning labels. And all of these organizations, their standards are copyrighted, which means you have to purchase them and we can't share them with other people. And you can't share them among yourselves. That's just the policy. It's just the copyright policy. So within the F2907 standard, the new one, the sling standard is referencing the ANSI standards, Z535, and there are 3 separate ones that it's referencing. You don't need these standards if you're not designing your own labels, or if you're not designing your own instruction manuals necessarily. If you're purchasing from us, or if you are using our template, then we've already covered this. But I'll tell you what these 3 standards are. And I've found that casresource.com is the least expensive place I found to purchase it, but I do think they're about $92 each on that website. So it's not inexpensive to purchase all 3 standards. First of all, there's ANSI Z535.1-2022. This defines your safety colors and the requirements for colors. This is where you're going to find the Pantone color for safety orange being 151C, for example. That's all included in there. And OSHA adopts these standards as well, and various organizations use this particular ANSI standard setting organization. CPSC, ASTM International, they set the standards for consumer products. ANSI sets a different set of standards. Another standard you'll need if you are designing your own labels is Z535.4-2011. This defines the typefaces that you can use when you're making the labels, what the ratios of those typefaces have to be, the layout of the text and how the spacing has to be, and things like this. The typeface requirements, though, and I just want to call your attention to this in this particular standard, they require a certain size typeface based on how far you'll be viewing the label. But it's important that when you are following the standard, that for size of your typeface, you are referencing the ASTM standard. Because if you use the ANSI standard for the height of your text, this is a little bit confusing, but then you won't be compliant. And it's just a discrepancy. The subcommittee decided to keep the text larger, even though they're referencing the ANSI standard. So this tells you what kind of typefaces you can use, what the layout needs to be, and what are your spacing requirements for that typeface. Last of all, there is the ANSI standard Z535.6-2011. This talks about product warnings in instructional manuals. Now, if you're going to simply use your graphic for your label in your instruction manual, then you're good to go. You don't need to include the orange. You can simply include black and white or white and black or contrasting colors for that warning bar. But if you're going to simply just use that format as is and print it in your instruction booklet, then you don't need to know about the rest of this. However, if you would like to format a little bit differently in your instructional manual, then you're going to want to get ANSI Z535.6-2011. And that just defines requirements and gives examples for how you need to format the warning labels and warning statements within your product instructional manual. The only thing that I will say that's in there, if you are not purchasing the standard, is that the requirement is common sense. Ensure that you place the warning statements in the most logical place for your consumer. For instance, before other instructions. So if you want to assemble the sling a whole bunch, and then you want to talk about the warnings as you place the baby into the carrier, then that might be an adequate place. You could put them prior to the whole thing, but you don't want to place them at the end of the instruction manual. That would not be in line with the standard. If you need more compliance support or you need help interpreting the standards, then drop me an email, director@babycarrierindustyalliance.org. We offer support to our members from across the globe, not only for United States compliance, but also Canadian compliance and compliance with places across the world. If we do not have the information that you need, we can help you find it. And we offer compliance consultations to our members at a very low cost. And I'm always available to answer questions via email and short phone calls or video calls. It can be complicated to interpret the standards. If you would like to talk about the standards, I just need proof of purchase so that I can ensure I'm not violating any copyright laws by sharing the standard with you if you don't already own it. But I am more than happy to go over the standards with you and to walk you through where the pieces are, because I understand they can be confusing and that it's an awful lot to consume. So if you have any questions, do reach out and watch your email for information about those labels. And thank you for your ongoing membership and support. I hope you have a great day. Keep an eye on the blog for lots of conversations about this, and we will be updating our website in the near future to help make all of our resources more intuitive to find. But for now, if you want to access those compliance services, I will be updating our compliance checklists ASAP this week. But if you want to update our compliance services or any of our compliance checklists, you're going to log into your member portal and click on resources. And then there will be some buttons that you can click on, including one for compliance. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day, and I hope this was helpful.